you want me to go? What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Behind the Glass Sports Podcast. Thanks for tuning in, whether you're abruptly following us on YouTube or if you're listening via the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, Google Podcasts, Pocket Cast, Breaker, Overcast, or Radio Public. We thank you for tuning in. We got a huge show today. The NBA obviously returning last night. Got a lot to break down there. I found out some terrible things about Brandon that I never knew last night, and I'm questioning who he is as a person and where our friendship stands after this. So we'll talk about that. We didn't get to it last show, but do the Denver Nuggets deserve a pass if for some reason they get bounced in the first round? That's going to be on the docket for today. And of course, we're just going to preview the Nuggets and Miami game tomorrow. But a lot to get to, a lot to react to from last night. Thanks for tuning in. Again, if you'd like to follow us on Twitter, for Brandon at Brandon_Stoll, for myself at Stephen Priest Jr. Fun night last night, though. We had the NBA return. New Orleans and Utah opened the game. I believe it went into overtime as well.
No.
Right off the bat.
No, wait,
And then
did it?
I thought it did, didn't it?
I was watching that game. I don't think it did.
It didn't? I could have sworn I saw it go into overtime.
Hold on. Let me double check. I think
Okay.
it was. I thought it was gonna get.
It was definitely down to the wire.
They were both 2-point games though.
Okay. It didn't go into overtime. But huge
I was like,
opening
wait.
game. Close game. I thought it because when I was fast forwarding through Utah to watch, because I recorded the Lakers Clippers because I got to it late. I thought I saw at the bottom that it was in overtime, but my mistake. But that was the first game. Good game for what I got to watch. I watched about till halftime of that one, and then obviously Lakers Clippers was just a great showing of why the Nuggets will not be in the Western Conference Finals. And I'm already regretting my pick of the Lakers going to the finals, and that's something we could talk about today.
No.
But huge night. Is it just me, or does Zion look fat? I thought he got leaner, but he definitely looks fat.
Yeah.
He's still like decently built, but he definitely is chubby buff. He is not lean like that picture showed, which makes me angry because I was bamboozled. I was duped. Somebody photoshopped it. His triceps were way more defined. He definitely had Jokic fat triceps last night and not defined Zion lean triceps last night.
Do you think he will ever be like that? Like, do you think he'll ever
be not fat?
Yeah, like do you think he can ever get to like the LeBron type of body?
I think he could if he wanted to, but that's just, that he's in New Orleans. That comes with a lot of discipline, of not eating everything in sight. So, I think he could, but I don't know if he ever will. Maybe if he does, it'll probably be too late. Hopefully he does for the sake of his career, because right now he's just an athletic freak. Mm-hmm. And I don't want people to get confused. Like, I like Zion. I think he's a talented player, but I don't think he's cracked up to what everybody makes him out to be, at least right now at this point. I think he relies on his athleticism, which obviously so. I mean, he's still a rookie, so he's got a long way to go in this league, but I hope eventually he develops what Blake Griffin, it took him like 10 to 12 years to develop, and that's just the threat of a 15-foot jumper and even the threat of shooting a three. If he could do that, then the sky's the limit for him. But right now, I think he has a ceiling.
He had 13
very
points.
High one.
Yeah, 13 points, no rebounds, 1 assist. He was a -16, the lowest on the team last night.
And part of that too is because he's obviously he hasn't been practicing as much with the team. He left the bubble, so you could probably attribute it to that. The fact that he does look out of shape. I'm telling you, he looks fat. Like he doesn't look how, and like the beard doesn't help that he has. It makes his face look exceptionally round, like my 6th grade yearbook picture, which I'm still angry. I want to know who that photographer was, because they zoomed in on my face purposely, and my face was 8 times bigger than everyone else's, and it was at a bad time in my life because I didn't have braces yet, so I had the Michael Strahan gap as well. It was a terrible time. And I'm angry. Okay,
Can you take a picture of that
names.
for me, please?
No, I will not expose myself because that'll end up on Twitter, and I'm not gonna stand for that. Anyways, I'm sorry to get on my soapbox.
Wait. We need to make a bet. And
That will never be
if I
released.
win, I want that photo.
No, that's never. That's in the vault with me messing up success with Janae Payne. That's things the world will never ever have physical evidence of. But it makes me mad. But that's all that to say. That's what his beard looks like right now. His face is so round. It's just it doesn't look good. Shave the beard, lose some weight, and yeah, then you'll get back to that.
I'll
But to
find a
answer your
way.
question, I think he could get to that weight of LeBron, like that type of body. Obviously, LeBron's like probably 2 inches taller than him, two or
Yeah,
three almost.
yeah.
So it's a little bit different. But I mean, he could definitely get more in shape than what he is.
Right. And it's not just and look, like does he have to, get to LeBron level? No. But we've seen the benefits of getting to LeBron level. And that's playing in year 17 at an MVP level. So, where's Blake Griffin? And what, Blake was drafted in 2009? If
Yeah,
I'm not mistaken. So
I believe
that's
so.
that's 6 years after LeBron was, and LeBron's still at an MVP level, and Blake's not playing right now. So that's it's just you would like them to get to at least close to that level because we want to see them play and play at their peak for as long as possible. And some guys it just won't happen, but I mean, and LeBron is once in a lifetime type of guy, but at the same time, like he spends millions of dollars on his body every year. Why? So he can do what he's doing now. So, I mean, for a guy who in Zion who's 20 years old, start now. You might as well because it's only going to benefit you down the line. So, and it's not just for Zion, it's for Jokic, it's for all the young guys out there that maybe don't necessarily take care of their body like they should. So it's something where if they can get to you don't have to get to LeBron level, but if you spend 500,000 instead of 2 million on your body every year, that's gonna go a long way. So it would be nice to see, especially guys that on the team that we follow with the Nuggets, Bol, Jamal Murray, Porter, Jokic. We would like them to work on their body a little bit more. And Jamal looks like he has been over the last 4 or 5 months. But that's where these guys they're 19, 20, 21, 22. Like they don't care. It's their body's fine. They can go to McDonald's every day and it'll be fine. So, but at some point they need to start spending that type of money on their body if they want to play long term.
Yeah, most athletes can, but if you're Zion or Jokic, those cheeseburgers catch up to you quicker than you'd like to hope, and it shows, Zion, because those muffin tops, it's seeping out the jersey a little bit. Those threads, that sweat wicking thread, it's like, ooh, I wasn't built to hold all this in. I was just built to wick away the sweat. So let's loosen up. Maybe get this guy in a double X instead of just an X. But no, it was good to watch the NBA last night. Good to see it back in action. Utah obviously is going to be hurting without Bogdanovich. I didn't know he was their second leading scorer on their team at,
Yeah.
at 20 points per game, which was kind of surprising. So that's going to be a huge loss for them. But goodness gracious, Brandon Ingram really stood out to me last night. He's really turned into a nice player. I don't know if he's all-star level yet. Maybe like he's just starting to hit that ceiling to maybe next year he could be at that level. But talk about a 180 from where he started with the Lakers. I mean, he looked like he was going to be kind of a bust. Still a solid player, but just kind of from where he was drafted wasn't great.
Right.
To now, I mean, he's easily the best player on that team right now.
Yeah, and here's the thing, and we'll get into all this probably within the next couple weeks, but the Pelicans have a shot. They have a shot to catch the 8th seed. Obviously, a loss last night doesn't help, but they have a lot of talent. Brandon Ingram is like you said, he's a good player. Once Zion kind of gets going, they'll be fine. Lonzo did not play well at all. He didn't shoot the ball well. He was shooting the ball well right before the break. So Drew Holiday had 20 points, or 5 rebounds, 4 assists, so he played well. But JJ Redick came off the bench; he had 21. So they have a solid team, and they'll have a good chance at sneaking into the playoffs. The Utah Jazz, though, they're not going to stay at the 4 seed. They're just not. Without Bogdanovich, I really don't know who's gonna score for them. And if you could barely beat a Pelicans team that's really not there yet at all, and look, it's the first game. Both teams had a lot of turnovers. I think the Jazz had 20. They both had 20 turnovers. So I'm pretty sure every game for the next week is gonna be in the 20s as far as turnovers go.
Which, if you're a Nuggets fan, that should ease some of that
Right.
anxiety about that.
Right. As long as it starts to go down. If in a week and a half, if we're talking about turnovers still, there's a problem. But yeah, I mean, I just don't know how this team is gonna get points. Donovan Mitchell only had 20. Mike Conley did have a good game. He had 20 points, 4 assists, but I don't know where else you're going to get scoring from. Jordan Clarkson off the bench, 23. That's solid. Can he do that every night, though? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with this Utah team, but only winning by 2 against the Pelicans team who's not even close to being ready yet. And I think the Jazz are one of the few teams who had all their guys for the most part throughout the scrimmages. In all those practices, so I don't know. If I'm a Jazz fan, I'm a bit nervous for this team, especially without Bogdanovich.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the stats last night. They did have all 5 starters in double figures, which, I mean, that's good. Royce O'Neal
Right.
had 12, Rudy had 14 and 12. You mentioned Conley 20, and
But
Mitchell 20.
Royce O'Neal is gonna give you 12 probably every night. Like, he's not gonna give you more than that. Same with Rudy Gobert. He's not gonna really give you more than 14 points because they're limited offensively. But
Yeah.
so now you're talking about, okay, Conley has to give us 20 a night. Is he gonna do that? Probably not. Is Joe Ingles gonna be consistent and get you 20 a night? Probably not. The only guy you can say that you're gonna get consistent 20 points per game is Donovan Mitchell. And maybe if Clarkson plays 30 plus minutes a game, maybe Clarkson can get you 20, but how efficient is that going to be? I mean, he was 8 of 17 last night.
He was 1 of 8 from 3. Oh
So
my God.
I don't know. I mean, look at their 3-point shooting. They shot 23.5% from 3. They're really going to miss Bogdanovich, and that's a massive loss for them.
Yeah, that's a huge dip. I don't know if they're always going to be around that 20. I mean, I would venture to guess they're a better 3-point shooting team than 23.5.
Right, but everyone is going to be much better than that at some point. You know, and you look at...
They need a lot.
Right, and you look at the the Pelicans, who haven't had as much time, who also had guys that shot the ball terribly, and they still shot 35.5% from 3. So it's like, I mean, Lonzo Ball was 2 for 13 from the field, 0 for 4 from 3. Brandon Ingram was 2 for 8 from 3. Drew Holiday was 2 for 5 from 3. So their starters were not good from 3, but they still shot 35.5% from 3. So they still had guys to come off the bench and score. I mean, you can't say that about Utah. So I don't know what's going to happen with Utah, but I'm going to say that they're probably going to be that team that ends up at the 7 seed.
And looking at their schedule too, I mean, they still have Oklahoma City next. They have the Lakers, then Memphis, then San Antonio, Denver, Dallas, San Antonio. So they have at least 4 games that are going to be I'd say they'd probably be the underdog in. And OKC, I'd probably take OKC over them. I would definitely take the Lakers over them. Denver should be favored, and
they're
Dallas
only 3 games ahead of Dallas.
Dallas just feels like a way better team.
Well, and Oklahoma City, Houston, and Dallas. Are those 3 teams? Can those 3 teams pass Utah easily?
I would think so, yeah.
So it's just off of what I saw last night with them, I'm gonna say Utah drops to 7.
Yeah, Yeah, I don't think and it really sucks for them because the postponement came at a terrible time because
Yeah.
they were just starting to figure things out after a horrendous start to the season. They were looking kind of rough, and then they started to turn things around, and it was like, ah, we're gonna stop it
Right.
now. And then they
Actually,
lose
I'm looking at the
Bogdanovich, and
standings. I wonder if that game last night is counting in these standings. It doesn't look like they are.
it should. It's one of their 8.
Yeah, but it might not be updated because they were still only a game. Right here, they're a game behind Denver, and they weren't half a game behind Denver, were they?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't think
Uh,
so. So
I think they were within 1 or 2 games of Denver, weren't
right,
they?
so I don't think this is updated. So that means they should be only a game ahead of OKC, a game ahead of Houston, and only 2.5 games ahead of Dallas at this point. So, yeah, if I'm a Utah fan, I'm sorry, and it's just yeah, they unfortunate timing, but even then, even if they had Bogdanovich, like you need more scorers. You need more guys who can shoot the ball. Um, Bogdanovich was more of a guy who could like score any level type of player, but you need more shooters. You need more guys around that can just and look, if Conley can put up 20 points a game, that helps a lot. But still, I mean, I think you need a third guy in there unless Donovan Mitchell is averaging 30 plus points a game. That's really the only way I could see them not falling to 7 and getting beat in the first round pretty easily.
It's going to be interesting to watch what they do because they are definitely a team that's eligible to free fall. They have a lot of, I mean, everybody's going to have a few tough games within their schedule, but I mean, for them, a team that's kind of clinging on to where they're at, uh, I would think that they want to win as many as possible. But
Yeah.
moving on to the second game, Lakers Clippers, obviously a great game. To me, though, I come away from that game thinking, I wish I would not have chosen the Lakers to make it to the finals. And I get they won last night. They won by 2. But the Clippers are also without Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell, 2 key pieces. And for a stretch in that game, it looked like the Lakers just, to me, couldn't beat the Clippers. I still don't think the Lakers can beat the Clippers in a 7-game series. I just don't think they'll be able to beat them 4 times. I just don't see it happening.
I'm still on board with the Lakers. I think if it does come to that in the Western Conference Finals, I'm still picking them, maybe in 7. But here's the thing, and yeah, the Clippers were missing guys, and obviously that doesn't help them. But I'm looking at LeBron's stat line. That's not gonna happen again. So you lose to like what LeBron couldn't do last night. In my mind, is equivalent to what the Clippers were missing, because he he was not through those first 3.5 quarters. He was awful. He had 16 points. He did have 11 rebounds and 7 assists, but he had 5 turnovers. He was a -4 for the team. He shot 6 of 19 from the field and 2 of 7 from 3. And he had only 2 free throws. So that's a stat line from LeBron that we will not see, probably not in the rest of these, their next 7 games. And we definitely won't see that in the playoffs. And we definitely won't see that in the Western Conference Finals when he's going to be playing at that LeBron mode that we're all used to in the playoffs. So until we get a good look at both of these teams at full strength and these two teams having multiple games underneath them, I really don't think we could really know what could happen in the conference finals. Because again, talking about turnovers, the Clippers had 20, the Lakers had 16. I mean, none of these teams are going to be there, are going to be at their highest level right now. And so until the playoffs start, really, I don't think we're going to get that. The Clippers did shoot 44% from three, which is really, really good. I don't think they're going to shoot that well from three consistently. And the Lakers, they shot 30, so, and only 39% from the field, and they still won. So I mean, I think with the Lakers and when they got rolling, guys started to hit their threes. We saw Caruso hit some threes. Davis hit a couple threes. Or no, Caruso just had a couple buckets. He didn't have a three, but he had a couple of those buckets in that fourth quarter. Kuzma had a solid game. They have guys. Deion Waiters hit a three in that stretch. They have guys that can just nail threes, and they can catch fire. And I think when LeBron is going, I think that's going to be really, really difficult to stop.
My only thing with that, though, and you brought up his stats, LeBron has not played well against this Clippers team at all
No.
this season.
Mm-mm.
When you look at his stats, it's 21 points a game. It's 10 rebounds, 9 assists. So, I mean, that's normal. 21 points, that's not. And he's shooting 23 on average in this series against the Clippers, 23% from three and 37 from the field. So, if it was just one game, I could go there. But this is now a 4-game sample size where that's his numbers. I just think the Clippers have a lot of bodies that they can throw at LeBron, specifically Kawhi and Paul George, and they make it tough on him. And they really force Anthony Davis to win the game. And Anthony Davis has to have a monster game every time. Last night he did. I think he had over 30 points last night. But I don't know, when I see this series playing out, and this is why I was hesitant the first time around to choose the Lakers. It's just because even though the Lakers have great talent and they have the length and everything like that, it just feels like the Clippers have more guys you can count on to get a bucket other than their stars. Outside of Paul George and outside of Kawhi Leonard, those cancel out LeBron and AD. So when you go down the line, Danny Green, do I trust him more than Lou Williams to get a bucket? Not really. I think the Clippers have the better Morris twin, because both Morrises play for both teams, right? I believe.
Yeah.
And I think the Morris on the Clippers, which I don't know which one it is, I think he averages more points per game than the other Morris twin. Montrezl Harrell is a sneaky good scorer. I mean, he's up in that like 15 to 20 points per game range. Can you expect that from a Dwight or from a JaVale McGee? I don't think so. And then Kuzma, to me, I honestly don't understand what the infatuation is with Kyle Kuzma. I really don't get it. I get he's big, he can shoot a little bit, he can get to the basket, he can handle, but to me he just seems very inconsistent. Like, you just never know what you're going to get from that guy.
Right.
J.R. Smith, I mean, obviously we know with him, when he's hot, he's hot. When he's cold, he's cold. It's kind of the same thing with the Deion Waiters. So I just think the Clippers, when you look at it, not only do they have more guys that I trust to get a bucket, but they also just have more two-way guys that can lock you up too. And Reggie Jackson is a sneaky guy too for the Clippers off the bench. I think that's a solid pickup for them and a solid player for them off the bench. I just feel like there's just more guys on the Clippers outside of the stars that I trust more than the Lakers. That's just me, though.
The only thing though is the Lakers' length, and you can tell it bothers the Clippers a lot. It bothers a lot. It bothers pretty much every team.
Yeah.
But when Anthony Davis, the Clippers are gonna dare Anthony Davis to win the games. And if it comes down to that, I'm going to take the Lakers. I mean, if it really does come down to him, I'm going to take Anthony Davis. Because he's a mismatch nightmare for the Clippers. No one can go up against him and do anything. Like, all the Lakers have to, like, when it comes down to that 7-game series, which I think we're going to get. I think we're going to get 7 games in that Western Conference Finals. Game 7, if he shows up, and that's, I mean, again, it's going to be his first deep playoff run, so we'll see. But I'm gonna take the Lakers if it comes down to just him trying to win it, because they can't stop him. They have no one who can stop him. They signed Noah, but really, is Joakim Noah gonna slow him down? No, he's not. So and then it's not just him. JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard bothered them last night. Dwight Howard only had 1 point, but he had 3 rebounds, he had 2 assists, a steal, and he was +5 out there. His plus minus was a +5. He did have 5 fouls, but again, it prevents the Clippers defensively for the Lakers. It prevents the Clippers from getting to the rim, and it dares them to make shots. The Clippers, the reason why they stayed in that game and actually got that first lead and then stayed in the game at the end was because of their 3-point shooting. They shot 44%. They couldn't get to the rim because Dwight Howard, JaVale McGee were there, and Anthony Davis. So when you have 3 guys like that, and usually 2 of them are on the court at all times, you can't. I think that's something that when it really comes down to it, I don't think that they're gonna shoot 44% from 3 every night. And the Lakers, I don't think they're only gonna shoot 30% from 3 every night. So, and LeBron James sure as hell is not gonna put up 16, 11, and 7 every night, especially in the playoffs. So, and look, there's been plenty of years where LeBron has struggled against certain teams. And look what happened. You know, all those Indiana teams and Chicago teams, they have the wings to stop LeBron. You know, they don't have anyone else who can take over for LeBron. And what does LeBron do? He goes over and puts up 40 points a game, you know, his usual 8 and 8, whatever he does. So until they do it in the playoffs against playoff LeBron, I'm gonna hold that, you know, until we see it. So I just don't think the Clippers have the matchups to beat the Lakers. I think they have the talent to make it close and possibly beat them, but when it comes down to matchups, which matter, I think, more than talent, I don't think they match up well against the Lakers.
That's fair. I mean, we're going to have a chance to see it. I think these are the 2 teams that we're going to see in the Western Conference Finals, because all watching that last night did was prove to me that the Nuggets are just not on that level. No. And when you look at those teams and you know, our guy Ryan Blackburn, he was tweeting last night that he thinks the Nuggets can beat these Lakers and Clippers teams. Now, will they? No. I don't think they can beat them.
I think they have the talent. I do, because
one game, but a series?
Right, because we're talking about, look, the Nuggets have the talent because they're one of the deepest teams in the league. They have the scoring ability. If again, in big ifs, but if MPJ plays at a high level, if Jamal is consistent and plays at a 25 point per game level, if Jokic is, you know, 25, 10, and 10 type of player, and they get a consistent Will Barton, if they get Gary Harris shooting the ball well, yes, they can beat these teams. But
how many ifs and hypotheticals did you list?
That was a lot. That's a lot for them to get over. And, you know, I mean, it starts with Jokic. Is he going to give you 25, 10, and 8 every night? Probably, because he did it last year in the playoffs. Okay, so that's one. Is Jamal going to give you 25 a night consistently? Probably
I don't know if Jokic is going to give you that, because, I mean, he's going to have, say it's the Lakers, okay? I mean, the Lakers have so much length to play him with, and I would think that they're gonna shade to Jokic every time. They're gonna force him to get rid of the ball. And like I said, I've said this many times, if I'm any team playing the Nuggets regular season, especially playoffs, I'm doubling Jokic and I'm forcing anybody else to beat me, because I do not trust that Jamal Murray's going to beat me. I definitely don't. Gary, go on ahead, shoot. We don't even have to guard Gary. Honestly, bring that guy down here and let's just double Jokic with him together. I mean, Will Barton, Will Barton could hurt you, but is he going to be able to carry you for a game? No. Paul Millsap? No. Jeremy Grant? No. So I just don't.
The only guy you have to be afraid of is MPJ. Really, if you're taking Jokic
even
out of the
game, he
hasn't
shown it in the playoffs though. So...
Right. Well, and that's what I was about to get to. Is that's the only guy that can really torch you. I mean, Jamal could. So okay, those are the 2 guys. But we're talking about a Jamal who's extremely inconsistent, and if he's off, and that won't change. So at least throughout the game, it might go into next game, and he might light you up. But at least through that game, if he's cold, you don't have to worry about him. So then it comes down to MPJ, and he's just too young. He's not going to be ready. It's just, that's the reality of it. So they're not there yet. And I'll say this again, I'll say it a million more times, and it's just I'm going to say they're probably 2 years away at least. I don't think they'll be able to compete next year, at least with these two teams. So in my mind, it's waiting out LeBron essentially, and it's waiting until Jokic is right smack dab in the middle of his prime, and MPJ and Jamal are entering theirs, and you'll have Bol. So at that point, yeah, maybe that'll be their window. But right now, anyone who thinks that the Nuggets have a good shot at beating one of these two teams in the playoffs, I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. And I saw some people, oh look, both teams seem to have struggled. The Lakers didn't shoot the ball well. Maybe they don't have enough depth to beat the Nuggets. The Clippers kind of look like a little bit of a mess, but the Clippers are missing two guys, and we're also talking about Game 1. So if these two teams look like that, what are the Nuggets going to look like in Game 1?
Well, we already saw what they looked like in the scrimmages. So, I mean,
Right.
It's just, I don't know. I just don't see any way possible that it happens
Yeah.
for the Nuggets. And it's not just a Nuggets thing. Like, these two teams are like a step above everybody in the West.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're a Nuggets fan, don't feel bad knowing that there's no way your team's going to beat these two teams, even if they matched up with them in a series. Because I don't think the Rockets can. I don't think, the Thunder can. I don't think, Dallas can. I mean, maybe all these teams can get a game or two. Maybe it's just a game, because now you're not even playing home court. So at this point, it might be just a game. But if you get swept, I mean, it wouldn't shock me either, because they don't have the luxury of playing on their home court. So now it's really all that momentum and everything. Now that's kind of lost from the fans, that extra juice you get. So I don't know, with these two teams, when I saw that last night, and you see guys, just the two main stars, I mean, for each team showing up. I get LeBron didn't have a great stat line, but when it mattered most at the end of the game, he was there. He made the clutch bucket to go up ahead. He makes the two defensive stops at the end to seal the game. You have Paul George, who we're going to get to that as well. So I'm not letting you off the hook for that. 30 points last night, led the Clippers. Kawhi Leonard 28. I mean, those guys were there too. I mean, Paul George scoring the last 8 points for his team, hitting clutch threes. That was huge. Anthony Davis, obviously, with 30 plus points. I mean, those guys showed up. So when you look at the Nuggets and you look at their two stars in Jokic and Jamal, yes, Jokic can show up, and he's shown that he can do that. Now it's really now the pressure's on Jamal. Like, hey, you have to somehow match Anthony Davis or Paul George. Can you do that? Right now, I don't trust that.
And here's one thing, though, that does benefit the Nuggets, and it's the break. It's the 4 or 5 month break where you're saying, well, technically MPJ is entering his second year, right? Technically, if you go off of, with the break and how much growing that he could have had and done over the 4 month break. Same with Jamal. It's. So can this break essentially help them to grow up a little bit more, and also the experience in the bubble, because you're with not just your team, but you're with all of these other teams, all of these other superstars, and you're with them 24/7, and you're seeing what they're doing, you're seeing how they're preparing, right? So does that help a team like the Nuggets? And we talk about young teams on the road. And like the 76ers, like the Nuggets, those are really the two big teams that are young, that have struggled on the road in the past, and that's no longer a question, right? Because every team is on the road at this point. So if they can do a whole lot of growing up in these next 8 games and in the first round of the playoffs, I mean, if they catch fire at the right time, they could beat the Clippers in a 7-game series. But it's going to take everything that I said to happen in order for them to beat the Clippers, right? You need Jokic at MVP level Jokic. And here's the thing. Jokic can put up 30, 10, and 10 against the Clippers. Against the Lakers, that's another question. Against the Clippers, he can do that, because they don't have anyone who can stop him. They don't. So if they double him, then you're gonna need Jamal to be 25 points per game. Jamal, all-star level Jamal. If he is that guy, which that third scrimmage that we saw, if that guy shows up every night, I'm like that's exactly what they need, right? So that's 2. And if they get MPJ every night from what we saw in that third scrimmage, that's 3. So now you need the shooting from Gary, and you need a consistent Will Barton, and you just need consistent shooting. You need them to shoot 35 to 40% from 3 from everyone. So again, it's a lot, and all of that has to beat the Clippers. And look, it's just and like the reality of it is that's not gonna happen every night. But in a 7-game series, if they do for whatever reason get hot in that series, there's a chance that they can beat the Clippers. Now, when it comes down to beating the Lakers, I don't think they match up well against the Lakers at all. The length is gonna bother them a ton. The 3-point shooting from the Lakers, I think, will torch the Nuggets if it comes down to a series with the Lakers. I just don't think that matchup, like the Lakers can take Jokic out of the game, and if they do that, it's probably over. So the Lakers, to me, I just don't think the Nuggets can beat them. I don't think there's any way that they can beat the Lakers unless injuries happen to guys like JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard. And I'm not hoping for any injuries. So I think they have a better matchup against the Clippers, but other than that, there's no way they can get past the Lakers.
Yeah, I mean, for either of those two teams to beat, I mean, you mentioned it, but like in a condensed version, you're gonna need 30 to 35 from Jokic, 10 points. You're gonna need Jamal in the 25 to 28 range a night. You're gonna need Will, hitting 18 to 20.
Or Porter.
Gary, for the love of God, please just get 10. Please. I mean, it's 10. Paul Millsap, maybe 10. Like, there's just too many ifs. When you have to rattle a if and hopefully, and if that guy could do that, it's just not gonna happen.
You need 3 guys to hit 20+ points per game. So that's Jokic, Jamal.
You don't even know if Jokic can do that. I mean, he can do that, but you don't know if he will do that because he has these issues to where there's nights where he's just like, I'm just gonna take tonight off. And I'd rather just pass the ball around instead of shoot.
They're just not ready yet. And that's just, I mean, and even if they were all in their primes, even then, it would still be a close series. So I think it's more of you just gotta wait the Lakers and Clippers out. You gotta let the Battle of LA happen in a couple of years, and then you can have your time. So yes. I mean, at least for these playoffs, when they do play the Clippers in the second round, or I guess because there's a team in the West that can knock off the Nuggets in the first round, but if they do play the Clippers in the second round and say it's a 6 or 7 game series and they lose in that, I'm perfectly happy with that. If they can get 2 or 3 games against the Clippers and at least show some promise to maybe next year they can do some things, then I will gladly take that.
Did last night change your opinion? Do you want to now walk back your disrespect of Paul George and, say that he and Chris Middleton are not the same player? Are you ready to walk off that hill? Because there's flaming arrows coming up that hill. Do you want to die on that hill?
Look, it wasn't a shot at Paul George. I wasn't disrespecting Paul George. Paul George is an all-star player. He's a great player. I just think Middleton is also an all-star player. So, We'll see what
If
Middleton
if
does, I
Chris
guess.
Middleton was swapped for Paul George last night, does he do what Paul George did?
I don't know. I don't know.
No,
I don't
no,
know.
no, no. The answer is no.
Look,
He's not nearly the offensive threat that Paul George is.
I don't know. We gotta wait and see what happens with. Look, we got a good game with Milwaukee and Boston tonight, so I'm excited for that one.
There's a few good games. You have Houston and Dallas will
Yeah,
be on
yeah, that'll
tonight.
be a good one.
We'll get to see the Blazers in action as well.
Yeah.
So that'll be
Yeah,
interesting.
and that'll be
Pack.
interesting to see the race for the 8 seed because my money's on Portland. I don't know who you're taking, but with healthy Nurkic, and Dame and CJ, I don't know how Portland was 8 games below 500, but
I mean, they were ravished with injuries this
right.
year.
I mean,
they didn't have Zach Collins either. So
right. So I even then though, I think they're gonna be the 8 seed, and that's a tough 8 seed for the Lakers.
you think they catch up to Memphis and
All they have to do is get within 4 games, and then they win that one game. They would have to beat Memphis twice, right? And Memphis would have just to win once. But I'm taking Portland. When it comes down to it, and Portland's experience,
3 games up on Portland right now, though.
they're what?
3 games.
Well,
4
yeah.
games,
So
like,
all you have to do is be within 4 games, right? And then you get the play-in game.
So wait, do we go off of wins for how many games a team's up or losses? It's wins, right? Because Portland is 4 games back of Memphis in the loss column, but they're
Well,
only 3 games back in the win column.
No, you just take it as technically Portland's technically 4 games behind, I guess, since they're 3.5. But that doesn't matter. As long as they're within 4 games, then we got playing games to see who's the 8 seed. Which kind of screws over a team like Memphis, who's already in the 8 seed and who's, that many games ahead. But as long as Portland is within 4 games, we will have playing games with Portland and Memphis and whoever else is within 4 games.
Should be exciting.
And then
I don't know. Memphis is a solid team, though. So
yeah, but if it comes down to a playing game, right, where Portland has to win back-to-back games, Memphis, all they have to do is win 1. Who are you taking?
Portland's healthy, almost fully healthy, because they're not going to have Rodney Hood.
Yeah.
I'd probably go Portland. I mean, if I'm choosing CJ and Dame as like my 3rd best duo or 4th, whatever I had them at, then I think I have to go with Portland.
Yeah, and I mean, unfortunately, that's just where we're at for Memphis. Like, sorry, Memphis, but you're probably gonna have to play a playing game, even though you're gonna get the 8 seed by record. That kind of sucks. I didn't really love how the NBA did that. I don't know if you saw the NHL and how they're doing everything, but I love what the NHL are doing.
Aren't they doing like a round robin tournament?
Yeah, pretty much. For at least for the lower teams. So the top 4 teams in each conference, they're gonna play each other to decide who gets what seed in the top 4, and then the rest of the teams are in like are in like a round robin type of deal to see who makes the playoffs. I love that, and I think the NBA really should have done something like that because all Portland has to do, and they're already within 4 games within Memphis. So now they have to win back-to-back games against Memphis, which they can do. I don't know. I just feel like that's a little unfair for Memphis.
What's unfair is how they, did all this just to loop in New Orleans. That's unfair because if we have to see Zion dunk, knowing clear and well that any team that they would play, either the Lakers or Clippers, they're just going to get swept anyway. Well, let's make sure we get Zion in there so he can dunk 8 times a game in the playoffs. Yeah,
the NBA is about stars. What are you gonna do?
They're pushing him so hard to be the face of the league after LeBron. It is just not even funny. And there's so many other players better than him. So many other better players. And I just don't get it. But it is what it is. So obviously I'm not going to get you to come off that Chris Middleton hill. I'm just going to have to learn to accept that. For everybody else, we can just lavish in Paul George's greatness while Brandon is over there delving in Chris Middleton's mediocrity. I shouldn't say mediocrity. He's a good player.
Paul George is not a. He's in my mind he's not a superstar.
Well, no, I didn't
Like,
say he's a
he's not-
superstar, but he's a top 12 player in the NBA when he's healthy. Chris Middleton's like top 30.
No, he's not top 30.
He's like top 30. He might be 29 or 30, but he's top 30.
See, I'm not disrespecting Paul George. I'm just putting Chris Middleton a little bit higher. You are disrespecting Chris Middleton. That's
As
how.
I rightfully
That's how.
should. Yes. He's made it to like 2 All-Star games. Okay.
What? Paul George has made it to like 3.
He's made it to 8, like 7 or 8. What do you mean?
Yeah, averaging 17 points per game.
That is not true. That is not true. He's averaged like 23 to 25.
No.
I don't understand.
Stop.
I don't understand what your hate is.
Last
for
year
Paul
he
George.
had a fantastic year. Other than that, it's been like 21, 22 points per game.
Because he was taking the main defensive role.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
Okay. He was expending a lot of energy on the other end, which Chris Middleton will never have to know about, because Giannis does all that for him. He just babied his way
Chris
to the
Middleton
Eastern
is a
Conference
good
Finals.
defensive player.
I'm just gonna continuously chip away at Chris Middleton. Every time you chip away at Paul, I'm gonna chip away at Chris. Even though they're both good players, it's just Paul George is better, significantly better. But apparently that's just me that thinks that. Speaking of the Nuggets, we didn't get to it last time, but we're talking about we don't think they can beat the Lakers or the Clippers. That's assuming they get past the first and second round. Well, I guess first round, because they're going to face one of them eventually. Is there a scenario in which we can give the Nuggets a pass if they get bounced in the first round? So say they get, Dallas or, Houston. Is there a scenario that you could give them a pass, or are you expecting this Nuggets team, like they have to at least get out of the first round this year?
No, they don't have to get out of the first, but it would take here's if they get Dallas, because that's the only team I could see them beating Denver in the first round. So if they do get Dallas, which there's no way. I haven't looked at Dallas' schedule. They might have a brutal schedule, but I think Utah is gonna just fall. So I don't think they'll get Dallas in the first round, but you never know, I guess. But if they do, the only way I would be okay with them, I guess I wouldn't be okay. I'd be whatever. It'd be fine. Is if it was a 7-game series, Jokic was Jokic, at least playoff Jokic that we saw last year, and Jamal was consistent 25 a game. That's my requirements. I want Jokic to have the similar numbers to what he had last year, which was like 25, 12, and 8 or something ridiculous like that. And I want Jamal consistently. I want every one of those 7-game series, or every one of those 7 games, to be him scoring 20 plus a game. At least 20 plus a game.
You're very demanding.
That's
what you want.
That's what I would expect.
A lot here that I don't think this team can provide you.
They should get past the first round. It's that simple. If you're gonna be, if you're gonna be talking about competing with the Lakers and the Clippers and all these, and those are the expectations, and you lose in the first round, there's gonna be a lot of talk about you never being able to get to that championship level, and not just the next year or two, but the next 5 to 10 years. And you're going to be counted out every time from here on out if you lose in the first round. And the only way you don't is it being a 7-game series where Jokic and Jamal carry the hell out of the team, and unfortunately you just ran into Luka. And Luka's putting up 30 to 40 a game, 8 and 8, and he's clearly the next LeBron, essentially, right? That's what it's going to have to take for you to kind of get a pass. and not just a pass from me, but a pass from everyone, national media included, because national media is already counting you out. If you lose in the first round, it has to be against Dallas, maybe against Houston, if James Harden and Russ are just killing you and averaging 30 plus points a game. That's the only way. Is you're gonna need it to be 7 games. You're gonna need your 2 stars to be stars, and their 2 stars to just be flat out superstars. Like, that is an MVP caliber level of play. You're gonna need Russell Westbrook and James Harden to put up 30 plus a game. You're gonna need Luka to put up 35 to 40 a game. And if they lose because of that, I mean, what are you gonna do at that point?
Yeah, I'm with you. It all depends on the context. Now, if they go out there and get swept by any team, then no, that's just.
If they
I don't even want to
get
think about the anger.
swept, there's gonna be a lot of people calling for Malone's job. And I love Malone, and I want Malone to be here for the next 20 years. I want him to be the next Greg Popovich, right? And I love how he coaches the team. He's more of a player's coach. I love that he's getting into practices, and he's always done that. I love how he works with how he worked with Jamal and how he still does. He was so tough on Jamal, and I was one of those people that hated it, but it worked. And I think he's doing a similar thing with MPJ. And so I trust him, but at the same time, if you get swept, the questions of, is he just another Mark Jackson? Is he just another one of those coaches? He was a developmental coach, and that's great and all, but you need another coach to take the young guys and push the young guys to that next level. That's going to be talked about, and that might be something that they have to do if they get swept.
See, I don't know if I can go that far, because each year he's been here, the team has steadily improved in wins. Last year was their first year making it to the playoffs, and he probably took them farther than anybody would have expected, and probably than they should have gone. And they probably they did overachieve last year.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for his second time in the playoffs, if they get swept, I don't know if, at least I wouldn't say he deserves to be fired. Now, if we get next season and they get out and throw out a dud in the first round, then it's okay. Then I think that's where I'd be with you.
Right. No, but
okay, I don't know if he's the guy that can take them.
I think the birdies will start to chirp, though, if that were to happen this year.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Especially the casual Nuggets fan that watched last year when this team got hot, and they started really watching in the playoffs, and they saw, oh, well, this team can't do it. So
the questions are going to
real.
The questions are going to start. Will he get fired?
Yeah.
No. But the questions will start, and it will put that much more pressure on him next year. And so that's where I could
see that.
Right, and so that's where it's going to get dangerous if they lose in the first, or if they lose badly in the second round next year, combined with losing in the first this year, he's going to get fired. And that's just
I can see that. I can see that.
Yeah,
if he makes it next year and they throw out a dud in the first round, it depends on what who they play next year and the context of everything. That we would just have to judge that. But if it's just going off a first round exit next year, then yes, I think he would easily be on the hot seat, if not let go.
Right.
This year, I think if they get swept, man, that would be just extremely disappointing. And I agree that those questions would start to arise. Now, for people that would already call for his job, that's where I would disagree. But it all depends on context. Would I give them a pass if they lost in like 6 or 7 to Dallas or Houston? I don't know if it would be a pass, because I'm still disappointed. So I think for me, I don't really think there's a scenario in which I would give them a pass, because even though I'm scared, even though I'm scared of Dallas, as a team, I still think Denver is the overall better team, and they probably should win, even though the whole team's not going to play, 1 through 7, 8, 9.
Yeah, but what if Luka just goes like supernova and puts up, 50 in a game 6 or 7 to knock Denver off? I mean, at that point,
Well,
it's
I
just
mean, if
like,
he's averaging 40 plus, then they just deserve to win at that point. But I
right.
mean, Jokic should be able to cancel out what Luka's bringing.
Okay.
You know, and that's where it goes to again. Jamal is the X factor.
Right.
He has to. I'm not gonna say it all rides on him because obviously if Jokic doesn't show up, then it just doesn't matter in the first place. But if we're expecting that Jokic will be the 23 to 27 point per game that we saw last year, and around 8 to 10 assists, then yes, Jamal has to at least pour in 23 to 25 a night. And he has to, at the bare minimum, match what Kristaps is putting in, which Kristaps hasn't looked great throughout his time there so far in Dallas. So I don't think there's a pass necessarily that I could say, or a scenario in which I could say I could give them a pass, because either way, if they don't make it to the second round, I'd be
Yeah.
disappointed. And given the
Yep.
circumstances, everybody else is going through the same circumstances, but everybody else also got to rest like you did. So there's no excuses really. I mean, now if they okay, I should preface this: if they get sick or guys get injured, okay, then that's different. I could give a pass for that. That is what it is. You can't control that. But health standing, and you have your full repertoire there, no excuse that they shouldn't get past the first round.
Yeah.
Whether it's Houston, whether it's Dallas.
Yep.
Even though I'm scared of Houston too, more so I'm scared than you are. I think you would like them over Houston. I still think
Yeah,
that
I'm not scared of Houston. I'm terrified of Dallas, though.
I still think that with Houston, that's a tough team to watch. But I think the Nuggets could. I'm not gonna say easily beat them, but they could beat them. Now with
Yeah,
Clint Capella out, that changes everything about how Houston operates.
right. Well, and it gives the advantage. It gives that matchup advantage to Denver because Capella just killed Denver.
Yeah.
So I'm not scared of Houston. They are going to be now. I'm not saying Denver would beat them in 4 or 5. I still think that would be a 6 or 7 game series.
Yeah, I
I'm
agree.
so terrified of Dallas. If they do get Dallas in the first round, I'm picking Dallas in 7. Flat out, I'm picking Dallas in that series.
I wouldn't argue it.
That is how terrified of Dallas that I am. That I am praying that Dallas wins all 8 of their games. Because if they win all 8 of their games, they're the 4th seed, possibly the 3rd seed. I don't care. I would rather have Dallas jump to 3 and Denver fall to 4 than Denver having to play Dallas in the first round. I'm fine with that. Hey, Denver can get the Lakers in the second round. I'm fine. I don't want to see Dallas.
So LeBron can destroy my dreams.
I mean, to be
Great.
honest, I would rather. You know what though? I would rather see Denver go up against the Lakers and the Clippers. To be honest, in the second round, if now we're saying if they lose no matter what, to the Lakers or Clippers, who would you rather see them play? I'm gonna say the Lakers because I want them to see LeBron. I want them to get that experience to see LeBron, just like last year where I wanted them to get that experience to play Golden State, because those are teams that. They are, and look, the Clippers are the same. I mean, they're the championship level, but the Lakers, LeBron has been there. He went there 8 straight times, right? Like he's been to the finals 9 times. I want them to see playoff LeBron. I want them to see what it really takes to get to the NBA Finals, and against the Clippers. Kawhi doesn't have to go playoff LeBron mode. Like, he doesn't, right? Because he does have, like, Paul George. And I guess LeBron has Anthony Davis, but they don't have a lot of depth behind them. At least the Clippers have that. They have Lou Williams who could put up 20 plus. Montrezl Harrell who could hit 20. They have a bunch of guys who can do that. Whereas the Lakers, they're solely relying on LeBron and AD. And hopefully, they'll get Dion Waiters and JR to have a few games where they win a couple of games, right? But other than that, it's really on LeBron and AD. I want Denver to see that. And so if I really had to pick, and if someone told me, no matter what, Denver loses in the second round, whether it's the Lakers or Clippers, they have no chance at getting to the Western Conference Finals, I want them to play the Lakers. Now, if you're saying that they do have a chance to get, there's a scenario where if I'm talking to like Doctor Strange here and he's giving me, whatever,
The one out of
Right. The
300
the
billion simulations.
right. If there's that one, or maybe a little bit more than one, it'd be nice if there was a couple hundred scenarios. Then I would pick the Clippers. But if there's zero, I want them to see playoff LeBron.
Yeah, who would I rather get swept by? It's you're asking me, okay, we're locking you in an arena to fight off a bear or a lion. Which one do you want? Well, okay, well, I mean, I'm gonna get eaten either way. I guess I'd rather have the one that's a little bit smaller, maybe have a better chance to poke his eyes than I do the bear that's 11 feet tall. So I guess give me that one, even though he's gonna rip me to shreds and his paws as big as my face, and he's just gonna smack me and concuss me. So sure, let's go with the lion, I guess. It's just, does it matter? I don't. Either way, they're gonna lose. So I mean, sure. If it's LeBron, yay! Let's have LeBron sweep us. Yay! So excited for that. Can't wait. Let me see JaVale celebrate, knowing that he's won championships before the Nuggets, even though his career looked like it was going to be over with. Love that. Or do I want to face the great cyborg who has no emotion on the court and
JaVale
read
and
to his
JR.
brain every night? Oh my god. Yeah, and JR. So sure, I mean, honestly, I don't care which either way. If there is no chance. So I mean, I don't care who we see out of those two. It's just gonna be tough to watch. I will be crying miserably as long as they get out of the first round. I just want to fight. If they just put up a fight, even if it's like a Portland style fight against Golden State, where hey, we had the lead at one point in every game, even if it was 2-0, I'll take that. But
Yeah.
I just they can't go out in the first round. That to me, I think there's no excuse. There's no way that they should go out in the first round. This team is too talented. With the emergence of Michael Porter Jr. and even with Bol, I mean, I get we've gone over. We don't think Michael Malone would put him in, or at least I don't think that. He's a rookie. He brings things to the team that you don't have.
If you
that
desperately
could
need
offset.
something,
Yeah,
you
I
can
mean-
throw him out and see what happens.
5 minutes,
Right.
8 minutes. I mean, you could throw him out. I mean, you're down 15 in the third, and you need a spark. Hell, why not throw a Bol out there? Maybe he gets a couple blocks, he knocks down a three, and then you're on a 5-0 run or a 7-0 run, and it's all spurred by what he just brought to the team.
Well,
I
and,
think
and we
just-
also forget that they've added and look, if MPJ is part of the 8 or 9 guys in the rotation, that means they've added MPJ and Jeremy Grant. And I think people, including myself, kind of forget Jeremy Grant wasn't on this team a year ago, and he changes a lot. Like, he gives them the length at 6'9", the defense, and that 3-point shooting outside that you can just kick out and he'll hit a three. So, and you can start him at the 3, you can start him at the 4, and you can play him at the 5 if you want to go small ball. So he gives them someone that they really needed a year ago with that 3-point shooting, with that length and that defense. And you add 2 of those guys in him and MPJ, that changes a lot. Instead of a one-sided defensive guy like Torrey Craig playing, you have a two-way guy in Jeremy Grant playing, right? Instead of Mason Plumlee, and you would decide to go small, you put MPJ there, MPJ who can just put up 20 really whenever he wants, right? So, and that scoring threat, and also that length, he bothers guys defensively, and not only that with MPJ, and I forgot to bring this up in the last episode, but his offensive rebounding is outstanding, and he gives them so many extra possessions in a game, and if he plays 25 to 30 minutes, he's giving you right around 5 extra possessions a game, whether he's grabbing the offensive rebound or he's at least lifting the team up to go out and get those offensive rebounds. So those extra 5 possessions, those are huge for that team. So those are 2 guys that, again, they didn't have a year ago, where if guys like Gary Harris or Will Barton or Mason Plumlee are struggling, or Torrey Craig are struggling, they're not going to get 20 minutes a game like they did a year ago, even when they were struggling, because they didn't have anyone else. Malone didn't have anyone else to put in there. Now he does. So if those guys are struggling, he can put in an MPJ for maybe 25 or 30 minutes instead of just 15 to 20. He can put in a Jeremy Grant or even start a Jeremy Grant, right? He can put in a Bol for extra, just maybe a spark. So he has so much more, and you know, when we talk about depth in the playoffs, it usually doesn't matter. When it does matter, though, is when you do have guys that you can bring out who normally don't play, who can spark the team and get the team going. And that's what the Nuggets have. So off of all of that, really, they should not lose in the first round. There should be absolutely zero where they shouldn't even get to a game 7. They should be able to beat Houston in 6. They should be able to beat Oklahoma City in 5. They should be able to sweep a Utah team who can't score a lick. So that's in my mind, that's where they're at. The only team where I would say it would go 7 is Dallas.
Yeah.
Other than that, this team is way better than they were last year, and that's without saying Jamal's a year older and Jokic is a year older.
I listed the lineup, what I think the projected lineups, or at least players available, and I have a possibility of 11 guys that they could play, which is kind of crazy because in the playoffs it goes to about 7 to 9. But
Yeah.
you factor in Jokic, Murray, Gary, Paul, Jeremy, Mason, Barton, and Monte. Those guys are for sure going to see action. Yeah. Now, the fringe guys where this will probably be just based on matchups is MPJ, Torrey Craig, and Bol. Mm-hmm. I think those should be the 3 guys where it's a fringe 9
I would
guy.
add in a 4th guy, Troy Daniels. If they need instant offense and I'm not saying Troy Daniels maybe getting 10 minutes a game. No, I'm more saying 2. Like 2 to 4 minutes where at the end of the first half or in the third quarter, if they need a spark, they need someone to hit a couple of threes, throw in Troy Daniels.
Why not throw in Bol and Troy Daniels and keep MPJ? Why not have those 3 if you need a spark lineup? MPJ, Bol, and Troy Daniels. Those 3 guys are out there, and we're down 10, and there's 2 minutes left in the half. No one else is hitting anything. Jokic is off. Murray's not there. Whatever.
Yeah.
Why not throw those guys out there? I think that's, at this point, what do you have to lose? Break the narrative of, you can only play, depth gets shorter in the playoffs. Break it. You have weapons. Use them when you can. So, I mean, we'll see. It's going to be interesting how everything plays out, but the Nuggets have weapons. And, even as I go through that, there's no way they should lose in the first round, even if they get a Dallas. Granted, I think it'll go 6 or 7. They should be able to beat that team because I don't think Dallas goes this deep on their team. Now, they have players, Curry behind those guys. And, I keep forgetting the very athletic center that they have that can jump out the gym. Yes. He's there. Obviously, Boban, who's 12'9".
And that's the thing; they have the length. Like they have the length that bothers Denver, and then they have Luka on top of that. Like they are the perfect team to beat Denver. Like they are literally built to beat.
They're Lakers
Denver.
light.
They're LA light. I mean, yeah. Like they have the 3-point shooting. They have the superstar. And they have the length, and that's the perfect recipe to beat Denver. And I think in 3-4 years we'll be saying the same exact thing. Maybe not. Well, you're gonna need length in 3 or 4 years to even just compete with Denver. But like that is the recipe to beat Denver, and probably the recipe for the next 10 years to beat them.
Before we wrap today, obviously the Nuggets get going tomorrow. There's a slate of games going on today, but the Nuggets will start tomorrow, 11 a.m. Are we doing the reaction thing tomorrow?
Is it at 11 a.m.?
It's at 11 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Oh, I thought it was a 2 o'clock game. I was way off there. I would have slept right through the game.
Shut up, boy. I'm just sitting here waiting at my computer. We might be doing a reaction video. Obviously, we can't do the full footage. We can't stream the footage. But if that's something you guys would be interested in, kind of similar to what we did with the Portland game with the Nuggets in the playoffs, just kind of give our reaction live as the game is going on. So that'll be fun. But they do play tomorrow, 11 a.m. against the Miami Heat. First glance at this game, I mean, I don't think they'll lose, or if they shouldn't lose.
Anything can happen with these first couple of games in the bubble.
Right, for sure. Obviously everybody's getting back into the swing of things. the Nuggets to me are the more talented team. I think they only played the Heat once before everything got postponed, and I believe it was here in Denver, and they won that game. But I mean, initial impression, I believe they should come away with a win tomorrow. That's just me though.
Yeah, they should. I mean, obviously there are scenarios where they could easily lose. Turnovers will be a big thing. And look, we're not expecting everything to look clean. Obviously, the two best teams in the league, they looked like a complete mess last night in the Lakers and Clippers. They were just both a mess, so that's why it was a close game. So yeah, expect 20 plus turnovers for both teams. And look, that's not if the Nuggets do come out of that game with a loss, don't take too much of it seriously. Because really it's going to be the first game Gary plays. It's going to be really the first action that I know he played in the scrimmage, but not very much. So really the first bit of 5-5 that Will is playing. Jamal's second game, Porter's second game. Like it's gonna be it's not gonna be what we were seeing towards the end of the normal regular season. So don't expect them to be the Denver Nuggets that we're all expecting them to be maybe when the playoffs come. So that's kind of like the preface. Now, should they win? Yeah, but I mean, if they do lose, as long as it's not a blowout, I think things to look forward to. I think Jokic, want to see him be a little bit more aggressive offensively. Want to see Jamal shoot the ball well. He doesn't have to have 20 plus, but if he goes out there and is maybe 6 of 11, 15, 16 points, I'll take that. Want to see Jamal be a little bit more consistent. MPJ would like to see him get 20 plus minutes, and hopefully if he plays 20 plus minutes, I want him to be right around that 15 points in tomorrow's game. Other than that, I want to see Gary shoot the ball decently well. I don't want a 1-for-7 game. If he can give us 3-for-7, I'll take that.
Even if it's layups.
Right, right.
Layups.
And then other than that, I mean, that's kind of what I want to see. It's not with the Clippers losing, and I mean, Utah winning is kind of scary, but I don't think Utah's going to catch Denver unless Denver goes 0-8. So I mean, it's not really it's not a must win, right? So just go out there, come out of the game healthy, and I want to see some flashes. Give me some flashes, and other than that, we'll just go forward. But those are really the two big things. And then they play tomorrow, and then do they play Monday?
Let's see. So they play tomorrow.
Because we won't be on until after they would play 2 games then, if that's the case.
Yeah, so tomorrow and Monday, August 3rd at 2 p.m.
Okay, so yeah, we won't be. I won't be able to do that live reaction on 2 p.m. So, so next time we do a podcast will be Tuesday morning. So, I guess by then, just from game 1 to game 2, want to see Jamal be consistent. I want him to have 2 good, solid back-to-back games. Same with MPJ. Same with Jokic, and maybe less turnovers. If you have 24 in game 1, then have 23 in game 2. Just don't get worse. Get better, even if it's slightly. So those are the main things that I'm looking at for these first 2 games.
Those are words to live by. Don't get worse. Get better, even if it's only slightly. Courtesy of Brandon Stoll. So that's going to do it for us today on the show. We thank you guys for tuning in and bearing with us here, even though the YouTube stream just kind of abruptly...
Also, blue cheese and ranch are both disgusting. Stop.
Okay, see, we need a poll. If you like blue cheese, like me, and you're a normal human being, tweet me, please. I need all my blue cheese supporters to come out.
People who dip wings and pizza into either of those, that's nasty.
What do you?
That's disgusting.
What do you do? Like, what What do you eat?
I had
What do
pizza
you-
and wings last night, and I didn't dip it
what do you
into
dip
anything,
them?
and it was delicious. Just
You
eat it
them
normally.
just plain?
What do you
with
mean?
nothing?
Buffalo wings plain is amazing.
You
Why
don't
do you
dip
need
it,
to?
like,
Why do
the
you need to
sauce
ruin it?
accentuates it,
No,
though.
you don't need to ruin it with cold ass ranch and blue cheese. That's disgusting. You don't need to do that.
What's wrong with you? God, you don't like chocolate. You don't. I mean, I like ranch too. Like I just prefer blue cheese
Well,
when
and
when
look,
I'm eating wings.
I like ranch on salad and stuff. That's fine, but you don't need to dip pizza and wings in it. That's nasty.
Hurt you as a kid. What did your parents do to you? Like what? Who hurt you? We need to have just a podcast about why Brandon is the way that he is. Join us next Friday for that. God. Anyways, thanks for listening. This has been the Behind the Glass Sports podcast with a side of blue cheese and ranch. If you are listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, Google Podcasts, Pocket Cast, Breaker, Overcast, or Radio Public, we thank you. If you found us on YouTube, we appreciate your time. Always, you can follow us on Twitter at Brandon_Stoll for Brandon, at Stephen Priest Jr. for myself. You know what I'm thinking for our next bet before we really go? I'm being sincere about this. We'll really go this time after this one. Next time we have a bet, if you lose, you have to eat blue cheese. And I was thinking about throwing this out to Anthony last night. I was like, okay, we should make a wager of some sort.
If you want me to eat blue cheese, I want that picture.
Oh God. Oh. Be a fair bet. I might be willing to risk it just to see you eat a full
if I
little
eat
cup
blue
of
cheese-
blue cheese.
Wait, I don't get anything with it?
No, yeah. I
Okay.
won't
I was
be
gonna
that
say
cruel.
I need to dip something. I'm not eating it just by it. That's nasty.
Just spoon it out.
Yeah,
and
no,
just-
I can't
it
eat
like
cheese by
yogurt?
itself. No, any cheese.
You can't eat cheese. Do you not like cheese either?
I'm fine with cheese, but I can't eat it
Like
by
cheese sticks?
itself. No,
You can't
no.
eat a cheese stick?
Gross.
This has been the Behind the Glass Sports podcast. I've come away disappointed today and questioning everything.
Have
about
you ever had
Brandon that I
Doritos with salsa? Dip Doritos in
yeah,
salsa? That's
yeah,
good.
like the nacho cheese Doritos.
Okay, some people think that's weird.
I mean, it's it's not like my go-to, but if I'm feeling froggy, sure. Why not? I think this is also coming from a guy too. Okay, now I'm gonna get judged heavily for this. But as a child, I was into some weird stuff. This is why I think Crumbles should hire me to think of concoctions for their cookies, because I did some weird stuff as a kid. I would dip my hot dogs in applesauce as well as bologna. Delicious. If you haven't tried it, highly suggest it. I would also dip it in Kool-Aid. Specifically the orange Kool-Aid. So try that too. Love that. Great. So I mean, listen, I'm up for anything. So I mean, try it. Can't knock it till you try
Right
it.
now at Crumble Cookie, they have chilled raspberry lemonade, cotton candy,
God.
hazelnut churro, caramel popcorn, and then obviously their two normal ones. So
That raspberry lemonade one. Oh,
I want to
sweet
try
mama.
that. That sounds really good.
When I saw that on their Instagram feed,
When
I
do
love
they
raspberries.
update the cookies on Monday?
Yes, every
Okay,
Monday
cool.
it's
So
new.
I might go
new
Sunday
stuff.
and try their chilled raspberry lemonade.
It looks so delicious. It really is me. Every time I see their feed, I'm like, do I want to risk my life today to eat a cookie? Like, if I go out, will I be okay with
Just
it
do the
being the
curbside
reason
pickup.
I know, but like, what if somebody, like, I'm so parent, like, what if somebody's sick and like he chews on my raspberry, or like whoever made the raspberry icing, like they accidentally cough and that little particle just falls all the way in there? Like, I'm paranoid like that. I just don't know if I'm willing to risk my life for a crumble cookie. Which, if you had asked me before this all went down, Steven, would you risk your life for a crumble cookie? I would say absolutely yes. Now, I don't know. Now I'm questioning things about myself. Am I who I thought I was? Okay, we're getting too deep. We need to go. Behind the Glass Sports Podcast. We'll see you guys next time. My stomach is growling and yelling obscenities at me to go eat something before I go to work. Oh, God.